Coming up next on Global Perspectives, I'll be talking with Jocelyn Potts from the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement. Please stay tuned. Welcome to Global Perspectives, conversations about culture and education. I'm your host, Karen McDonough, and today I'm talking to my guest, Jocelyn Potts, from the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement. Hi, Jocelyn, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I know that your department, your office, is not new to Anne Arundel County Public Schools, but I know that there are many people who really don't have an understanding of what your office does and how it fits into our system. So to start with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your trajectory to get to this position in Anne Arundel County Public Schools?
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Jocelyn Potts, and I have been with Anne Arundel County Public Schools now since 2010. Okay. I started off as an elementary school teacher at Ridgeway Elementary School. I started in second grade, but I've had the opportunity to teach second, third, and fifth grade. And excitingly, this past first marking period, I had the opportunity to teach fourth grade at Ridgeway Elementary School. Okay. So up until last year, I was a school teacher, and now I am in the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement as a school and community specialist.
Okay, and I do want to ask you more about exactly what your job does and what is the content of your job. But obviously you were one of our staff people that was pulled to be a teacher for a short period of time. So thank you for that, for assisting our schools in that manner.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement, and specifically, what is your role within that department?
Absolutely, sure. Well, the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement, or OESA for short, if that makes it a little bit easier, we serve as a liaison between AACPS and our broader community. Mm-hmm. Our job is really to ensure that the goals and the objectives of the Office of Civil Rights Memorandum Agreement are addressed, and that all students are exposed to equitable opportunities. And because of that OCR memorandum, we want to make sure that disparities for African American students are being addressed, as well as making sure that all students are being elevated and that we're eliminating all gaps.
Perfect. And then your job as it's community involvement. Tell me again your title.
Sure, it's a school and community specialist.
School and community specialist. So within that school and community role, what is it that your position does to achieve the goals of your office?
Sure. So my specific role is community facing. Mm-hmm. So my responsibility is to bridge the gap between schools and the community, mm-hmm. To really bring in stakeholders. And the ultimate goal of my position is to ensure that students are exposed to equitable opportunities. So developing partnerships and fostering and maintaining effective partnerships between the local schools and the local businesses and organizations within that school's community to foster programs and initiatives that align with the school's school improvement plan that will then help all of the students within that school building and expose them to different opportunities and to really increase the engagement between home, school, and community.
And so you mentioned a couple of examples of community partners. So there would be businesses. Is there any other kind of entity or organization outside of the school system that you work with or you liaison with?
Absolutely. So it can be local businesses, but also higher education, institutions within the area, local community service and nonprofit organizations. Okay. For example, I have a partnership with It Takes Two Incorporated, which seeks to mentor children and help children with their reading goals and things like that. So I partner with them and bring them into the schools and allow them to put on different programs, maybe that focus on reading, that focus on leadership skills. So it really depends on what the goals of the specific school are. And then I try to help them achieve those goals and find out which community partners would be able to assist with that.
And that leads me to ask, so you work obviously with the whole system, but you do pick certain schools and address their needs specifically.
Absolutely.
So if there's a specific school that has a need, they can reach out to your office and you help them come up with either a partnership like you just mentioned that helps them achieve whatever goal they're trying to get to, right? Does the services that you partner with, or the organizations that you partner with, is it always bringing them into the school, or is it sometimes getting students to go to different places, to different businesses, or it's all coming to the school?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So it's really twofold, like you said. So, countywide, we have this initiative to increase family and community engagement, but then also the other side of that is being specific to the schools. So it's a little bit of both, and it's not just bringing, those community organizations into the schools. It is exposing students out in the community as well.
Would that be done through internships sometimes? Is like providing those internship opportunities, or is that something done by another department?
Absolutely, that's what we're here to assist with. So internships, mentoring programs, field trips and different excursions that students are able to take, all of that falls within our purview in the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement.
Okay, very good. I think one of the questions that I know that you get, and that it would be important for our audience to really understand from the lens of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, the difference between equity and equality. How would you explain that to someone?
Very good question. Simply put, equity is ensuring that everyone has access in a way that is beneficial to them. Okay. Whereas equality, you're making sure that everyone has access. It's the same access regardless of if there are barriers in place. So there may be barriers. You might say, well, everyone has access to be able to read this book. But if it's a student that is in need of Braille assistance, right, that's equality, but that's not equity. We're not providing that student access in a way that's meaningful and in a way that is that allows that student to be engaged with whatever the opportunity is. So equality is, a blanket provision for all people, regardless of any barriers or any extenuating circumstances that may exist. Whereas equity is specifically meeting the needs of each individual to ensure that there is access without barriers.
And so in terms of how equity fits in with accelerated student achievement, you are, again, providing that access that fits individual students to get them to have access to accelerated student achievement, right?
Exactly.
So, okay,
exactly.
Very good. You had mentioned previously some of the initiatives that you have at some of the different schools. Can you give me, you mentioned one, you give me an example of another program that you're maybe having, you're running with one of our schools that would help us understand a little bit more about how you do what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So for example, I mentioned that, we bring partners in, community organizations, nonprofit organizations. So for example, a school may reach out and is in need of services for a family, and this is actually a current situation, that had a death in the family, and the student is in need, the family is in need. So my responsibility is to reach out to different food banks and partnerships and to connect the school and the school counselors with these different agencies or different support systems so that then they can provide them directly to the family. So whether it's in need of food or clothing vouchers, or we're upon the holiday season, right? So this family lost a parent, so is in need of things for the holiday season. So my job is to reach out to different organizations and let them know what's going on to see what type of supports that they can offer to this family.
Okay, all right. That's it's. I'm often just so impressed by all the different things that our school system is able to do in so many different situations. So that's really, really great to hear.
Another example would be Anne Arundel Community College. So, we have a partnership with them, but we had, students from Old Mill High School that have specific needs or are not really quite sure where they want to go after high school and what they want their trajectory to be. So Anne Arundel Community College has been great. I've been working with them to kind of mentor these students and expose them to the different programs that are offered within the community college and allow them to have tours and things like that. So, again, whatever the specific needs of the school are based on their student population, they're able to reach out to me, and I'm able to kind of form and forge those partnerships that will benefit students.
So from what you're saying, it's also something that we do at all levels, right? It isn't just, there's elementary, middle school, and high school, and obviously the needs would vary depending on that school community. Do you see different needs in our school system between the northern part of the county and the southern part of the county? Things that might be programs that would be more, that you might have done in the southern part of the county, they're more rural, there's less resources available. Any examples there?
Not really any examples, but here within this area, in the Annapolis area, there's so many resources. So I may have less schools reaching out to me within this area than I do the northern part of the county. So that's something to keep in mind, that a lot of the resources that exist for our school system are located here in the Annapolis area, which are great. But we also have to make sure that we're working hard to serve all of the county,
right.
So that all students have the same access to resources.
Okay. Very good. I really like the way you explained equity and equality, and I can imagine that sometimes parents have these questions from their kids, and it may be something that as parents may not know exactly how to have that conversation with their students. Do you have any ideas or tips for parents that are looking to have a meaningful conversation about equity with their students?
I do. It's an important conversation to have. It's a conversation that I, as a parent, have often with my son. And I think the main thing is to listen. But as parents, we have to listen to the verbal and the nonverbal communication that we get from our children. Right. So that nonverbal communication is just as important as the verbal, because a lot of times students may not know how to formulate or articulate the words or the expressions that they may want to convey to you. So listening would be the first step to the verbal and the nonverbal communication. And then also assessing what is your student's level of understanding of equity and issues surrounding equity. What has their experience been like? So asking those questions, but asking them at a time that isn't a stressful time for them, because you want them to be as open and as honest as possible with you. And then I feel from there you can then begin to have those conversations. You can contact our office for resources and books. You can contact your child's school counselor for books and different videos and things like that that may be age appropriate. But I do feel that age appropriate conversations can happen regardless if we're talking about primary grades all the way up through 12th grade. Students are more than capable of handling those type of conversations. So one of the roles of the Office of Equity is to ensure that students are exposed to how to advocate for themselves and implementing different programs and different avenues where students feel that they have a voice and that their voice is heard. So once parents are able to listen to the verbal and nonverbal, once they're able to assess their students' understanding of issues of equity, then I think that those conversations can take place. I also suggest that parents loop their teacher, their student's teacher into the conversation, so that teachers are aware that these conversations are happening at home. One, I think it allows teachers to meet students where they are. And then it also allows those conversations to take place within the classroom. Because as we know, issues of equity are not isolated, right? They happen within the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. So allowing the teacher to be looped into those conversations, I think, is helpful, not only for that particular student, but I also think it causes the teacher to have to grow and use all of the professional development that they've been exposed to. And it also aids the other children in the classroom, because equity helps every student, not just the student that's being impacted in that moment.
And I would imagine that if a student is having some questions or concerns, and it's brought to the attention of the teacher, there might have been another student who may not have said anything, who may be thinking about struggling with some of these issues, and the teacher then talking about it would be helpful to not just that particular student, but other students in the classroom.
Absolutely.
Is the issue or the topic of equity addressed in the curriculum specifically at different levels? Is it something that the teachers typically have a place in their curriculum to talk to kids about? I realize I'm throwing this to you out of left field, but I
Right.
just wasn't sure. As a teacher, I figured you might know.
Right. Well, as a teacher, the curriculum does do a nice job of offering windows and mirrors and doors and allowing students to have exposure to different perspectives. I think that's an area that we've grown within the last few years, which I'm happy about. So I think that in itself allows conversations and different topics to come up because you're exposed to different perspectives, you're exposed to different cultures within the curriculum. So that's nice that students are able to not only see themselves, but then they're also able to interact with, characters and different situations that maybe they don't have experience with, which allows them to, have a view into someone else's life, which ultimately we want to increase empathy, right, among our students. So I do think that there's an opportunity within the curriculum, but I also think because we have such a push on our social emotional learning, that those conversations are able to come up, in that arena as well during our wellness block in our schools.
Thank you. I know one of the other, I believe it comes from your office, the initiative of Unity Day that we have. Is it 3 times a year?
4.
4 times a year that we have Unity Day. And as a staff member, I always really appreciate that brings, I think that's one of those opportunities. There's like, well, what is Unity Day? What is that about? How did it get started? So I think that's just a very visible way of knowing that this is something that our system is working with, and some of the, it's for staff and parents and teachers to address the issue.
And I think that, I'm a little bit biased, but because I'm in the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement, but those opportunities, to really pause and take a moment to really focus as a school and as a district on issues of equity and how to tackle them, not only just with our staff, but on an age appropriate level for all of our students, is so beneficial. Being teaching 4th grade this past marking period, I had the opportunity to teach a Unity Day lesson, and I loved it. I loved it. As teachers, we always struggle with time and time management, but the lesson on identity, we literally spent the rest of the month doing it a day a week, just extending upon that lesson because the students were so engaged and really took accountability for the lesson.
Yeah, and I would imagine it would have been so, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just to see, how 4th graders talk about this, what their understanding is and what the questions they might have come up with. So I really, really like that. We still have a little bit of time, so I'm wondering if you have anything else about your department or your role in the department that you'd like our audience to hear about, or that you think it would be important for us to know.
Sure. Well, our office focuses on 3 areas. So we had a retreat this past summer, and we really took a deep dive into all the initiatives that we are currently working on and have worked on throughout the school year. And I tell you, it was upward of 65 to 70 different initiatives.
Wow.
And I don't think, because we're doing the work daily, I don't think we really understood or realized the capacity and the responsibility
and the
that
breadth.
we have. Exactly. So we took a real deep dive, but really wanting your audience to know that we are here, that we focus on not only staff and professional development and building the capacity of all of the educators within Anne Arundel County Public System, but our focus is also the broader community as well as our students. So, we are here, and my role, I'm one of 2 school and community specialists within the Office of Equity. So we are community facing. So if there are community events going on, if there are community needs as a whole that the school system can partner with, I'm available to consult, to guide, and to kind of partner with our broader community to ensure that our students' needs are being met.
And that brings me to, I think, what I hadn't previously thought about, but maybe there's somebody in our audience who works at an agency or is part of a business that would be interested in partnering with your office and providing, some of the partnerships that you had talked about. Would they reach out to you directly through our you know, I guess just your email, maybe we can provide that information as well, and that would be, you know, maybe another opportunity for somebody else to get involved and to offer, you know, support in some way.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Jocelyn, for being with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Global Perspectives. Until next time, try something new, discover a new culture, explore a new land. See you next time.